What the hell are musicals?
It appears to be a play where the dialogue stops and the plot is conveyed through song.
Through song?
Yes.
Wait, so an actor is saying his lines and then out of nowhere he just starts singing?
Yes.
Well, that is the stupidest thing that I have ever heard. You're doing a play, got something to say, so you sing it? It's absurd. Who on earth is going to sit there while an actor breaks into song?
The podcast you've been waiting for, the movie Wire is your show, the place to find what you're looking for. Movie lovers, the time has come. Justin Henson is your host with very honest reviews and news, the best of movies and also the worst. Movie lovers, the time has come. The movie Wire.
Musical.
And welcome to this week's special edition of the Movie Wire.
Musical.
Now, love them or hate them, musicals have been a big influence on our culture and the evolution of cinema. From the introduction to audio to hit screen, to the animation mixed with real human characters, to CGI to amplify the visual spectacle that we have seen today. I have always said that wherever you stand on musicals, there has to be a level of respect to be had with the challenges musicals face. When it comes to telling a story, to ensuring the music is on par with the tone, along with supporting the story and characters, and more importantly, ensuring that the music, the characters, and the story all are equally memorable. We have had a strange amount of musicals get released into theaters in the last couple of months, something we commonly don't see and we haven't seen in decades. So I felt it only right to have a little bit of fun with this. Excuse me. Hey, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, what are you doing?
Oh, hi, Justin. I heard you were doing a musical special and I wanted to audition.
Dan from Casting Views? Dan, here's the thing. You know I always appreciate your musical skills. I love your original songs. I love your singing, but...
Justin, what are you saying? You better not Bob Foss me.
Well, Dan, I kind of already filled those spots. Dan, I'm sorry. Dan, I love you, but you know, I can't be more clear. The auditions are closed. We're not adding any more music. You're not fitting into this episode. Dan, you need to stop. Stop right now.
It's okay. Don't worry. I'll be back. You'll see.
All right, back to the show. This week on the show, This Isn't Your Mother's Mean Girls in the musical remake of Mean Girls. Based on the 2007 film about a pie-making waitress is Waitress the Musical. The greatest story ever told comes alive in Journey to Bethlehem, the musical telling of the Virgin Mary. I will also be revisiting from two previous shows, Wonka and The Color Purple. We've got a lot of toe-tapping reviews to cover, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? God help us. Let's get into it.
Is he gone? Good, he's gone. You may well be the great and dashing Justin, but you can't stop my love for song. It's Dan's time to shine. La 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 la. Jeez. Man, that does sound a little out of tune. Let's try this again.
Once upon a time, on the big screen globe, Justin used to watch all the flicks. Critics on attack, the reviews a smack. It's rough, ooh, so rough. Movies he saw every day, laughing at the crap. He reviews crappy films for fun, for fun. He says we've got to sit through the Oscar bait, or if it's not, we've got our popcorn, and that's a lot so young. We'll laugh it off. Oh, we're in Critic Slayer. Whoa, the Movie Wire podcast. Take my hand, we'll mock it, I swear. Whoa, the Movie Wire podcast.
Let's start the show.
And here we go.
Have you seen such mean girls, meaning to be queen girls? Katie hates the plastics, but becoming one is quite fantastic. Trying to keep it classy, but her revenge is just jerk-assy. Katie is plastic, what a churl! It's obscene, she careens into a career as a queen mean girl. What a bitch.
A retelling of the 2004 film, and based on the Broadway musical comes this new musical version of Mean Girls.
Oh, hell no!
Move. Hey, PG-13, please. What was that?
Oh, Lord, it's the Queen Bee.
Regina George.
Don't look her in the eye!
You could be really hot if you change, like, everything.
I met a guy in the summer and I left him in the spring.
Welcome to Health and Human Sexuality. We'll be getting into abstinence, of course, then followed by in the spring, condoms and choking.
You're learning things now that I don't know how to teach.
Are you okay in there? We're concerned you're either doing drugs or having a toilet baby.
Ew. We as women have to be able to support each other. Get in, loser. Welcome, Katie. You're never gonna believe what I found this morning. Your burn book.
Mom, go make snacks.
For sure, Regina, yeah.
Do you like them?
Sure.
Oh, no, I don't have any. I was just...
You're a mess.
We will help you, Katie.
Why are you dressed so scary?
It's Halloween.
Katie, if you don't dress slutty, that is slut-shaming us.
That's just unprofessional.
What? What's this?
We're gonna make her pay.
All we've done is make Regina hotter and revive the wet look.
Dance break.
Who wrote all this junk? Katie pushed her.
Regina really should be lifting through her glutes.
Look at this thing.
I can't even see it. Like a face breast. You're my pilot, Katie.
Incorrect.
You have to pick a French name.
Chanel.
No.
Celine Dion.
No.
Beyonce.
Directed by married couple Samantha Jane and Antonio Perez Jr., and written by well-known SNL cast member and writer of the original 2004 film, Tina Fey. Now, I have been on the fence with this one, and after a couple viewings, I'm still on the fence with this feature. But I have to say, the more I viewed it, the more I kind of just warmed up to it. When it comes to musicals, there are some soundtracks I listen to before watching, and some work as individuals, and some I don't appreciate until I see the visual presentation. Mean Girls was an audible for me. I watched the musical and I wasn't really impressed with the music while viewing it for the first time, but I think combined with the visuals, it did an admirable job keeping the eyes entertained. This is one of those movies that is definitely a multi-view watch to see what directors Jane and Perez are going for, along with writer Tina Fey. But that doesn't necessarily mean it works in its benefit, because during my multiple viewings, I had mixed feelings during each of those viewings, but on different types of topics. The first viewing, I wasn't a fan of the music, even though on screen visually, it worked as visual eye candy, but I wasn't humming the songs after leaving the theater. But before I went to the second viewing, I did attend this viewing with my daughter, and I listened to the soundtrack in its entirety before the film. And I got a different feeling from this viewing, even though I wasn't tapping my toes to the music, and the visuals on screen didn't help me like the music more, because when I was listening to the soundtrack without the movie, I had trouble visualizing each song or remembering where each song was in the film, because it was just kind of all blended together with the exception of just a couple songs, including one entitled Revenge Party.
I'll bring the glow sticks.
I'll bring balloons and we'll have chocolate ice cream cones.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'll be the DJ spinning the tunes on a turntable made of a bone.
We'll get a piñata, cause that would be fun. And play dress up in Barbies and tag. And we'll roll on the grass and stare up at the sun. Then we'll stuff our remains in a bag.
And throw them in the river.
A revenge party, a party that ends with entrails all over the lawn. A revenge party with your two best friends. And I end up with Erin when she's gone. Yes, bitch!
But this is what I would say about the soundtrack and my listening experience without the visuals in front of me. Where it doesn't help move the story or amplify the story, what it does do is give the characters some actual heart. I found the soundtrack to be one of those kind of soundtracks to turn the lights down with a bottle of wine just to kind of relax. I found myself mesmerized by the lyrics, and I did keep this in mind walking into my second viewing. And even though, again, not toe-tapping music, I looked at this one a little differently. Instead of experiencing the music to support the story or the character development, I looked more on how these songs support the output of feelings that come from our teenage characters. And this is where it lies the problem, is that the story, the characters, and the music doesn't translate well for the audience to comprehend with the emotional output of what the characters are trying to say. There is too much going on screen. It almost felt like watching a foreign film without subtitles, where I have to kind of look for context clues to understand what's going on. Yes, some may listen to the soundtrack and zero in on the lyrics like I did on the second viewing to truly get an understanding, but that shouldn't have to happen with the musical. The two should go hand in hand. The music should amplify the story, should amplify the characters, so it actually feels like it belongs. So in a way, I liked my musical experience better after the first viewing, where I didn't care to think what the song was about or how it supported the story or the characters. It was like watching a circus act. It was visually pleasing, and that's about it. And when you have some fun music, some animated performance, along with a great set design, choreography, colors, and tone, it does take you into another world where you're watching almost like a performance, just without the music really helping to tell a story. Because I forgot most of the songs with the exception of one, maybe two, walking out of the theater. When we take our 2004 version of Mean Girls and this musical current version of Mean Girls, during the second viewing, I do have to say how I did like the moral message and how it was being told leading up to the climax. But then the climax doesn't really resolve anything. And this is truly a missed opportunity when it comes to messaging. A musical grand finale, a true emotional reaction, and a summary of what these characters have learned. This musical attempts to just sum up situations that we already saw and experienced along with our characters. We really don't get an attempt at summing up what comes next or how our two competing girls took away from the moral lesson. Our Mean Girls this go around is Katie, who was previously played by Lindsay Lohan, now played by Anne-Marie Rice, and Regina, previously played by Rachel McAdams, now played by Renee Rapp. These two do have an on-screen presence of likability on screen for the characters they play, but at times it's just a little too Broadway, like they're performing in front of a live stage. It amplifies everything, and we see a lot of performance flaws. And then at other times, when it really requires an emotional element, we get too little. And when it comes to a musical trying to teach a moral lesson, this is where it really falls on its face. Because if we don't feel that emotion coming from our performers, then we're not going to buy into the music. And if the music's not even that good, then there's nothing that really gets us to care about these two main characters. The only time I really felt something for these characters is when I was alone in my house listening to the soundtrack, and I can pay attention to these lyrics as it made sense. But again, when we get to the big screen, there is so much going on, it is difficult to pay attention and listen to the lyrics while watching exactly what's going on. I kept being reminded of 2020's Netflix stage-to-screen rendition of The Prom, starring Joe Ellen Pellman as our emotionally troubled teen that faces conflict, and the three Broadway stars that come to her small town to come help, played by Meryl Streep, James Corden, and Nicole Kidman. The Prom is a stage-to-screen that really knew how to capture the emotion from our performances and the music to a proper balance. If you haven't seen The Prom, it's streaming on Netflix right now, and it's a much better musical than Mean Girls. Now, it's not that Mean Girls is a horrible movie, but the movie does have a lot of trouble to capture that moral message and the emotional telling of the story, along with our characters. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have a fun time with it during my first viewing. But it's hard to ignore the climax that almost pushes the movie to feel pointless without a proper closing that we feel this musical is leading up to. Compared to the original Mean Girls, this version doesn't stray too much off course. It makes appropriate changes to have it fit with being a musical, but both these films are trying to accomplish two different things, so the two almost shouldn't compare. The first Mean Girls is going more for laughs with some more subtle adult humor, while this one is going more of trying to portray to teach a moral message, along with trying to get into the psyche of a teenage girl. So I think when it comes to trying to portray a teenage girl, this version reaches a little bit better than the original. The retelling of Mean Girls as a musical almost didn't feel necessary, and the combination of the two after leaving the theater just didn't fit right. But at the same time during viewing, I did get sucked into some of the fun it was having, and we can tell that our performances are fun and the cast was having fun with it. And open and honest, if I had a choice to show a version of Mean Girls to my teenage daughter, it would be this one, for the attempt to at least try to relate to the teenage emotional mindset and the kind of drama at school. Not only that, but I could also relate to the movie. The movie unloads a bunch of teenage drama to the viewer, and then by the time the drama is unloaded, the movie retreats like a teenager to their room where you don't know exactly what has exactly happened. I'm giving Mean Girls 2.5 stars.
A party with revenge is what it's like. A party with revenge. That's what it's like.
I'm about to pull a Mean Girls myself. This show needs something more. Maybe something a little more animated. I'm gonna be a mighty king, so enemies beware.
Dan!
No, Justin.
Dan, you need to stop. Dan, stop.
I just can't wait to be king.
Journeying to Bethlehem with Mary.
It started as a romance, but the only thing happening in her pants is God.
She's having a baby.
Now Herod's on the warpath with his muscly chest. He's wiping out the infants cause he's feeling distressed. Cause Mary's having a baby.
Maybe not for long.
Journey to Bethlehem I saw back in November, but it never made it on the show. I figured by the time my review was released, this movie would have been long gone and forgotten. And to an extent, I was right.
Your father has always known you are special. Nothing will change that, Mary.
Tell Mary we are ready. The music, play.
Mary, you're getting married. It's about to be the best day of your life.
Joseph, I feel like we're already friends, no?
Mary, Mary, married is something you do. Dreams are coming true.
Harry, God has chosen you to have a son, the King of all kings.
This wasn't a dream. An angel came to me.
It's hard to have faith.
It's hard to believe.
Look at the star.
Future holds more.
This is it. Let's go.
There are too many questions, too little time.
A divine king is to be born in your land.
It's a mountain too high to climb.
Why would I help find a new king in my kingdom? Well, when you put it that way.
Perhaps we should go.
What is the exit? It's going to be king. Everyone was my crown. I won the mother found. Don't have to be good. Those men
Herod must know of the prophecy. He wants my child. Joseph! I'm not the only one who's chosen for this. You have a choice. You can say you believe me and that you love me. Will you still marry me, Joseph?
I do. I will. Yes, of course, yes.
You truly believe that this child is the chosen one? What is his name?
Jesus. I think even Fig is beginning to tolerate you.
Stop. Stop.
Now, unlike Mean Girls and Waitress, here is where we have a couple well-known names and the music is toe-tapping. But the story and first-time direction by Adam Anders makes us feel like a made-for-TV movie that banked on religion and the holiday season to make some cash. And yes, some kids may be attracted to the musical numbers, like keys being dangled in front of them, and adults will be enticed by familiar names like Antonio Banderas, especially with his musical background, like in 1996 Evita. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with Antonio Banderas' performance in this, but the film really banks on the spectacle versus the substance. It aims to really give that feel-good feeling, solely banking on the music. In the first act, I was engulfed and I ignored all the direction flaws, all the cheesy set designs, to see how this movie was going to play out. It had a made-for-TV vibe, but the musical numbers gave me hope to where it was going to go with it, especially after an extremely good number by Antonio Banderas singing Good to Be King.
Hey, it's good to be king. I'll be the one who screams off with his head, or be the one who screams Savior instead. It's delicious to watch a man begging for his death. I put in a knife and I give it a twist. A smile opens up on my sinister lips. The joy of the crown is too much to resist. So stinking good to be king. I just love it.
Which honestly was electrifying to see, and it's still stuck in my head. But then the music starts to get a little ridiculous, and it starts to be off balance. I start to realize this when we get to a musical number of our three wise men approaching our king Herod, played again by Antonio Banderas, for information. This song was entitled Three Wise Guys.
We magi of three wise guys will bring the finest herbs our royal wealth can buy. Myrrh is the cure, it's the treatment du jour to procure some relief from insomnia. With a sprinkle, a dabble, your nightmares skedaddle, can even curb megalomania. Sleep through any plight with just one dose at night, thanks to myrrh. If you got an affliction and money to spend, myrrh is your new best friend.
I had no idea what kind of film or what kind of musical this wanted to be. Nor does the musical really give clarity on what we should feel or think about these characters. Let's take Antonio Banderas, for example. The movie gives us almost subtle hints of his intent and motivation, but our filmmakers assume that everybody that sees Journey of Bethlehem has read the Bible to know who this man is or what his intention is. So we really don't get an idea of the what or the why that really makes sense. The movie gives us a musical number of how he likes to be king. We get the idea that he doesn't want another king, aka Jesus, but then we don't get anything more for this character. This is a character that is just placed as a prop, but adds really nothing to the story other than moving it along with generic feelings. But I will say this. I do love his song, Good to Be King. Again, it's one of the best musical numbers of the movie. It's amateurish but visually appealing. But again, here we go again with banking on the musical numbers. When we get to the midway point, I almost wish we skipped over all this boring dialogue that was written by director Anders and Peter Barscoini, the writer from High School Musical 1 and 2, and it just went directly to the musical numbers. Given the writers of Anders and Barscoini and the limited directorial experience of Anders, we get a feel of a teenage high school musical that we got from almost like a Disney Channel original movie, like High School Musical. This is prominent throughout the entire runtime. Journey to Bethlehem got the same feeling as watching High School Musical because I just wanted to skip through that dialogue and get to the musical numbers. This is a musical that should have stayed a music album. We get these types of musicals that are just so generic that seem like the writers present the music without the script first and they get the green light. But studios banked on our Virgin Mary during the holiday season to bring in some box office dollars. Shame on you. Now, the movie stars Fiona Palomo as our Virgin Mary and Milo Menahem as our Joseph, who in fairness both don't really have a lot to work with when it comes to the dialogue. Holistically, their holistic performance along with the written material is so simplistic that is so easy when you're watching this to even question our Virgin Mary if she's being truthful or not in her pregnancy. The performances and dialogue are so simplistic you don't know if there's something going on beneath the performances to get us to wonder what's going on in the background. The material mixed with the performances are so amateurish, even though our filmmakers try to convince us otherwise. And I get it, this is a difficult story to tell, especially in musical form. But where the movie really feels confused is what kind of movie it really wants to be. It bounces around from goofy to serious to slapstick to farce. It never stays to a consistent pace or tone. It consistently switches genres on us where the IMDb summary should have just said, "What the fuck?" And by the time we get to the climax of where we know exactly what's going to happen, our filmmakers become even more lazy and throw in an emotional rendition of Oh Holy Night. And it had nothing new to bring to the table, but again, banking on the music to gain an emotional reaction. I would say to the filmmakers, I hear the music every Christmas. I know the story. What else do you have to show me? And the filmmakers would just simply shrug their shoulders and say, well, nothing. I mean, it's a musical about the birth of Jesus. What do you want? And I would say a damn better musical and a damn better movie, for the love of God. Journey to Bethlehem does have some fantastic music with well-choreographed scenes that are fun, but anything in between these musical numbers is what makes this movie completely forgettable and almost a sin that it was made for theatrical release. Everybody bow your heads, close your eyes, let us pray. God forgive these filmmakers for taking the money to those that paid to see this awful musical in theaters. I'm giving Journey to Bethlehem 1.5 stars. Amen.
'Cause where there's a king that he's worshiping, you'll find 3 wise guys. He'll reign forever and ever. He will reign forever and ever. On high over 3 wise guys. Hey!
Hey!
Man, he really hated that movie. But you know what he won't hate? Another song from Dan. I've got rhythm, I have music, I have my gal who could ask for anything more.
Dan, I've tried to be nice. Get off the stage.
Oh no, I have to run.
Oh great, Dan just crawled into the vents.
Pies for baking, guys for dating. Sometimes life is you're just stuck waiting. Life isn't fair, so she has an affair. But nobody will handle her with necessary care. She'd be happy enough with a bun in the oven, but happy enough ain't happy for real. Life could be finer, running the diner with a daughter that'll sweeten the deal.
Waitress.
Waitress, the hit Broadway musical about a small-town pie baker with big dreams, gets the silver screen treatment in Waitress, the musical.
She is messy,
It's your waitress?
but she's kind.
Yeah, I'm a waitress.
She is lonely most of the time.
Where's my kiss?
Girl, I gotta get back to work.
They can wait.
She is all this mixed up and baked in a beautiful pie.
Do that baby a favor and leave his sorry ass.
She is gone,
I haven't felt in a very long time.
but she used to be sugar, butter, flour, sugar.
Order up!
Opening up, letting the day in. Over a cup, we'll say hello, how you been? I got 14 pies to make it ain't gonna
bake themselves. Life's just peachy keen pie. Where there's a whisk, there's a way pie.
Oh, Lord.
Sugar butter flour.
Waitress is based on the 2007 film starring Kerry Russell and Nathan Fillion. Original Broadway book, Jesse Nelson must have loved these characters and stories so much in this sleeper, pie-loving, fell-off-the-radar film to bring it to stage. And honestly, I'm so glad that she did. Now, Waitress the musical went to an exclusive theatrical engagement last month that I did attend, but it was so limited I didn't have it on the show to be reviewed because it was only in theaters for a few days. And after that few days, it did give a last-minute encore playing, but by that point, it was too late to have on the show. But now, as of last week, Waitress the musical is now available to rent or buy on your respected streaming platforms. Now, there are some musicals that the public doesn't have access to watch live due to the cities they play in or the price or limited runs. I absolutely love it when we get a live theatrical shot musicals that do get released to theaters to give the public an opportunity to view some of these musical gems on a big screen, which isn't the best way to see them, but it's the next best thing. Nothing will ever beat a live theatrical Broadway production with an energetic crowd, but if done properly with care and skill, theatrical shot Broadway productions can capture the magic, emotion, and fun and translate that to a memorable experience. Waitress is one of these that really invites a viewer into our characters or scenes that are designed oh so well. It's like they were meant to be seen on the big screen. The last time I had a theatrical experience this mesmerizing is when Kinky Boots came to theaters in 2019. Waitress captures the same energy and the same magic that really just sucks me into a hypnotic experience. I was extremely skeptical of how this was going to translate to stage and then to screen with such a character-driven focus. The music has to be just right, the characters have to be just right, and those bringing the stage act to the big screen have to have the right skill to ensure that the performances work equally well on screen that they did on stage. Because unlike on stage, on a big screen, everybody in the theater is sitting in the front row and can see every detail, piece of body language, facial expression. And directors Diane Paulus and Brett Sullivan knocked this one out of the ballpark. Every single detail from flour being dusted, the right camera shots, the right up-close shots, ensuring that the camera from wide-angle to close-up shots really don't show much of the set during the right time, to the look of a sunset horizon through the windows of a diner, are strategically shot. The direction here is at top tier. Paulus and Sullivan know exactly how to demand the attention from the viewer and appreciate holistically what's being viewed on screen, with a cast and performances that are completely unforgettable. And Paulus and Sullivan know this and never shy away from up-close shots from the musical stage performer, where the risk of amplified or overacting that we see from stage performances can be seen. Our unhappily married pie-making waitress, Jenna, played by the oh-so-lovely Sarah Bareilles, gives a performance that is the highlight of this musical, and it's unforgettable. Just like Jenna's unique pies, she adds layers of personality, emotion, and realism to this role. Now, one of my favorite, more current Broadway performances used to be Jeremy Jordan, before he decided to transition to TV shows that many may know from Supergirl. Who, don't get me wrong, Jeremy Jordan's still good, but now I can hand over heart say that Sarah Bareilles is the name I will be looking for in playbills and IMDb in the near future. And I hope to see her not only on Broadway, she has a presence about her that I can see her in major motion picture roles. Now, when it comes to the music of Waitress the musical, now I talked about this a little bit in my Mean Girls review on the different types of music in musicals, where some musical soundtracks have a good toe-tapping feel. Some of these soundtracks you listen to and you don't appreciate until you see the visual presentation of the show, and you end up listening to it more and more after seeing the visual presentation and the meaning behind it. Waitress is like Mean Girls when it comes to music, but with one thing that really separates it. These two musicals do share the same similarities, that there's really nothing that's truly toe-tapping memorable, Except in Waitress the Musical, they have a number called Never Ever Getting Rid of Me, performed by the infectious Christopher Fitzgerald.
I'm gonna do this right. Show you I'm not moving. Wherever you go, I won't be far to follow. I'm gonna love you so. You'll learn what I already know. I love you means you're never, ever, ever getting rid of me.
This is an incredibly fun number, also a memorable number, and one of the best choreographed dance numbers I've seen in a musical in recent memory. But the difference in Waitress the Musical is that the music works in demonstrating and supporting the character development and showing the viewer what each one of the characters is feeling. The music by Sarah Bareilles is carefully simplistic to match our characters, and this is easy for a viewer to understand. It translates well to what our characters are trying to tell us, and it does exactly what a musical should do, which is amplify emotions, evolve our characters, and have the viewer feel a sense of emotion while viewing not just the musical numbers, but the story progression. The music elements work in unison with our characters and with our story. This is what really drew me into almost a trance and sucked me into this presentation. All the ingredients work in Waitress the Musical. They all work in unison to bring the viewer into this setting with a cast of characters that we really do care about. This is a story and a musical experience I wish would have had a longer theatrical run and a longer engagement, because this was a fantastic experience on the big screen. And I have purchased and watched this again at home. Even though it's not the same as the big screen treatment, it still manages to keep me engulfed and engaged into its character story and music. Waitress the Musical, just like Jenna's Pie Creations, is an absolute delicious treat and worth every single penny to rent or buy on your streaming platforms. It is nearly impossible not to fall in love with these characters, the set designs, the performances, and the balances of humor, fun, and emotion. If you are a fan of musicals or just a character-driven story, this is one not to miss. I'm giving Waitress the Musical 3.5 stars.
I love you means you're never, ever, ever getting rid of me.
I have to be quiet. How could he not cast me? Taylor Swift, she calls me for advice. He calls himself a critic.
Is that Dan on stage?
You can't stop an avalanche as it races down the hill. You can't try to stop the seasons, girl, but you know you never will.
Somebody call security.
There's no way that music is better than this. I'll be back. You'll see.
Will somebody lock the damn door?
All Celia's life she's had to fight, work like a dog all day, all night, living out their sentences, sister. That mister, he takes a lot of bravery. Better by far bedding down with Miss Shark Avery. Celie finds the letters Nettie's writing, hope to God they're reunited, win their independences. If this don't win no Oscars, it's been robbed, it's been burgled. The movie of the musical of the movie of the book, The Color Purple. Hell no.
A woman faces many hardships in her life, but ultimately finds extraordinary strength and hope in the unbreakable bonds of sisterhood. In the remake of the 1985 film and based off the 2015 Broadway musical retelling comes The Color Purple.
How come you don't laugh none? Ain't you got something to make you just smile? My sister, and I ain't seen her in years. You know, if you ain't gonna laugh, you need to sell your funny bone. Oh! I was married to a man I didn't love.
Whatever I say, go.
And he took my sister away from me.
Even if we have to part, you and me, us have one heart.
How come you so nice? Don't know. Maybe you too nice.
You seem like trouble.
I come here out of respect. But if there ain't none to get, there sure ain't none to give.
on the house.
Push the button.
There's gonna be some changes made.
Give me something.
You got to stand up.
I know my sister somewhere in the world. Someday we're gonna meet again.
Keep your head held high, just like Mom taught us.
It's time I be free from you and then turn to creation.
I'd die before I let that happen.
Good. That's just the going away present I've been needing.
What do you gotta do?
Time for you to see the world.
Push the button.
Sweet and loving God.
Positive, you wanna come in.
In her first major motion picture, 2004 American Idol winner and award-winning musical artist Fantasia plays Celie, who previously was played in 1985 by Whoopi Goldberg. The 1985 film adaptation sets the foundation for this version, along with more familiar feels attached to the Broadway musical. Now, I am a fan of both the 1985 Spielberg-directed version and the Broadway show. Blitz Bazawul takes the director's helm in this version in his biggest film to date, but we can still see some Spielbergian style added to a lot of the look, feel, and a lot of Spielbergian camera shots. Whether Spielberg had a play in some of the direction or just a nod from Bazawul to Spielberg in an almost a director's Easter egg. From simplistic camera effects such as dust being swept in front of the camera to the way the camera introduces a new character on screen. For a big movie like this, especially being a musical, this is a tall order to fill for a new director like Bazawul. But Bazawul owns it with an engaging tone and intimacy with our characters during the first half of the movie. He ensures that our characters are just as important as our mesmerizing musical numbers. Bazawul really knows exactly what he has when it comes to his cast of talent, which is amazing performances across the board, what stands out from Fantasia Barrino, Danielle Brooks, and Coleman Domingo. Bazawul really takes full advantage of where his camera goes to ensure we don't miss a beat on keeping the camera on our characters at the exact appropriate time to feel the range of emotion from each individual. This also includes during the musical numbers, but this can also be a fault in the first half of the movie, where Bazawul has certain scene changes during musical numbers that seem distracting. From a prison chain gang to a waterfall, we see a couple of these bizarre transitions in the middle of the musical numbers that don't really do much other than make the lyrics of the musical numbers harder to understand the meaning or what Bazawul is trying to symbolize. This is where we see some faults in Bazawul's direction, where he has trouble balancing the messaging between the story, characters, and music to make it all kind of blend together in unison. We have an inconsistent focus between the music, then a focus on the characters, but when it comes to how that translates to story, leaves a big question mark on what Bazawul's trying to do. And that makes it so the intent at times we have to kind of read in between the lines, and it starts to become clear by the end of the second act to the beginning of the third act that this is about a journey of a woman through pain, hardship, abuse, and loss. But we have to read between these lines to really gain this knowledge. I kept getting this subtle feeling that everything was being sugar-coated, and I didn't know what Bazawul was trying to tell us, or even where he was trying to take us. When the movie kicks off with some musical numbers in the first half of the movie, these are filled with marvelous choreographed dance scenes and a ton of great energy. When we get to songs that should be solidifying our characters' emotions, this is where Bazawul's direction struggles to tie in the story and the emotion from our characters. We get so much energy and Broadway-style spectacle from the second half of the movie, it softens what should be an emotional message that should be prominent in our character's journey. As these musical numbers seem to overload the movie with songs that should feel more emotional than what we were presented with. It waters down moments and feelings of serious topics of abuse, racism, loss, attempted rape, in moments when we should feel sad and even extremely angry. I felt at times the movie was sugarcoating or tiptoeing around these topics, when it really needed music to address it heads on or less music to have the characters address it head on. There is a scene where we have our character Sophia, a vocally powerful and a strong-willed character who stands up for herself, which is one of the longer scenes without being interrupted by a musical number, where we have Sophia turn down a job to a high official to become their maid. When we see this scene, it makes it more apparent with how powerful and emotionally charged it is. The filmmakers should have lost a couple of the musical numbers and focused on the characters and performances. And this isn't easy for me to say because I love my musicals with a lot of musical numbers, but only if it helps build the emotion or help tell the story. We don't have either here, which is frustrating because a lot of the songs are fantastic. We just miss the mark on the songs that should get an emotional reaction from the viewer. At one point, we have Fantasia sing a song, I'm Here, which is intended to be a powerhouse of emotion during our main character's personal journey, as that of what we got with Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls singing You're Going to Love Me. But the song, even though well vocally performed by Fantasia, doesn't hit the emotional trigger to really bring the viewer into Seeley's head. The film was written by Marcus Gardley in his first big film, with mostly TV projects behind his belt, and even though well written at times, this is where we almost get a disconnect from the messaging as it was made for TV. But to his credit, even though the dialogue could go further, it is incredibly engaging with our amazing performances that really amplify his work. There is a lot of moments of great dialogue in the film, but these are interrupted by the musical numbers. Despite all these flaws in this version of The Color Purple, what is undeniable is that this version of the film is incredibly engaging due to the performances in the cast that not only have a powerhouse of likability on screen, but they are at their best when it comes to truly amazing performances. And even though there's an unbalance of story versus musical numbers that doesn't always help move the story along, the musical numbers are rich and they're popping with energy that even though don't always feel like they belong, they are incredibly watchable. For a movie that's almost 2.5 hours long, the time does fly by, but so does the messaging. I was on the fence even after my second viewing of how I felt about The Color Purple, but after my second viewing of still finding it engaging and entertaining, even with the messaging, character, and story flaws, I have a hard time saying I wouldn't recommend it. The Color Purple does play like you're watching the live stage musical from the last row of a Broadway show because the emotion feels distant. But by the end of the movie, there are so many good things that did stay with me after the viewings I attended, but at the end of the day, I couldn't help shake the feeling that this almost played like a musical concert than the telling of a story. Even though not as powerful as the 1985 version, this one will keep your attention, and the music is fantastic. I'm giving The Color Purple 3 stars.
Oh no, here comes the guy that stole my part. I have to be quiet.
Wait, what is Dan doing here and what is he dragging off stage? Is that a bag? Why is the bag moving? Somebody call security! Somebody stop Dan, he's taking our lead!
Okay, I'm leaving. Mwahaha. Just kidding. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do.
Oh, Dad, that was beautiful. You got the part, but the show's almost over.
Willy Wonka when he was young. Willy Wonka's penniless, he spent all of his coins, escaping from a laundrette a friend called Noodle joins. There is a great conspiracy of rival chocolatiers. Willy's business chances of survival disappear. Noodles never tasted chocolate, the food that makes you plumper. So with her help will Willy win? Is this how heroes all begin? Chaotic plates begin to spin, and here's an Oompa Loompa.
I've got a perfect puzzle for you. Oompa, loompa, doompa-dee-dee. If you are wise, you'll listen to me.
With dreams of opening a shop in a city renowned for its chocolate, a young and poor Willy Wonka discovers that the industry is run by a cartel of greedy chocolateers. In this musical prequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory comes Wonka.
So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
Funny little man? How dare you? I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
In fact, in Loompa-land, I am regarded as something of a whopper. They call me Lofty.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. My name is Willy Wonka. You see, I'm something of a magician. Prepare to be amazed.
Teapot.
Inventor. May I present Willy Wonka's wild and wonderful wishy-washy Wonka Walker. Please don't make me say that again. And chocolate maker.
The best chocolate in the world.
Ooh.
He's good.
Too good. And anyone can afford them. Even the poor. He doesn't like it when people say poor. Send Wonka a message.
Do not sell chocolate in this town!
You're gonna get more than a bonk on the head. I love a bonk on the head. What is with me today? You should stand up to those bullies. Give them the old 1-2.
I got an idea.
Where do we start?
Making chocolate, of course.
Every good thing in this world started with a dream. So you hold on to yours.
I guess it's time to change the world.
Oompa Loompa, Doompa-dee-dee. I'm not in premium economy.
Good night, sir. I am going flat.
Huh.
What is it?
Nothing.
Well, it's obviously something because you said, huh.
Forget it.
Very well.
Huh.
Oh, you did it again. Tell me what it is, or I shall poke you quite viciously with a cocktail stick.
You know, a funny thing happened about the hour mark into watching Wonka. That usually is rare for me when it comes to watching a prequel, let alone a prequel surrounding a well-loved movie. I started to experience a pain in my cheek and an ache in my jawline. And then I realized I was just smiling, and I must have been smiling for what seemed like the first musical number all the way up to the hour mark. I was so focused and engaged into the colors, the music, the pure charm of what I was viewing on screen that I didn't even realize I've been smiling for over an hour. It's almost like when you watch a really well-executed suspenseful scene in a movie and you clench your fist for a long time without even realizing it. Wonka even made me forget that this was even a prequel. It has a polar opposite tone, brighter colors, and a much more cartoonish supporting cast. Now, some may not be a fan of the look of the film because it contrasts the original tone quite drastically. But to me, after reflecting on this film, I thought it worked extremely well to support, to contrast, and to create a contradicting world of the past of Wonka. In this prequel, we see a brighter, outgoing world, and we see a brighter, outgoing Wonka before the real world pushed him into a man we saw in 1971's Willy Wonka. The tone, the look, and the feel should rightfully so be a drastic change. It's a setup to what happened to Wonka as we saw him in the well-known 1971 version. But what really puts a question mark on how drastic this tonal change is the way your supporting cast was written. As I said, the supporting cast here are designed almost that of a Saturday morning cartoon that borders almost a slapstick type of feeling with these characters. More specifically, our villains, which we have many in this movie, including our hotel staff, Mrs. Scrumpet and Bleacher, played by Olivia Colman and Tom Davis, who give off this Carol Burnett as Miss Hannigan vibe from 1982's Annie. The first hour of Wonka was getting complete deja vu character designs from Annie mixed with the humor, heart, and tone from Paddington, which that factor isn't a surprise to me since our director is Paul King, who did direct the first two Paddington films. King also helped pen the screenplay to Wonka alongside Paddington 2 writer Simon Farnaby. King also brings back numerous cast members from the Paddington films to Wonka, so for some there will be a lot of deja vu and some characteristics that seem familiar. This may be why at times I felt I wasn't watching a Willy Wonka prequel. This feeling will most definitely have some opinions surrounding it from viewers from both sides of the aisle. Those that are hardcore 1971 fans of the original might have some problem with some of the aspects of the cartoonish villains in this film. And the other side, some may appreciate the new kind of look and the new kind of style to actually open it up to a new generation of Wonka fans. But for me, as a fan of the original and keeping an open mind, this actually did work for me. And if I were to look at it as just a mere standalone film, there are a lot of elements here that work and succeed more often than they fall flat when it comes to what Paul King is trying to accomplish. The first half of the movie is absolutely magical and engaging. Most of my issues with this film comes from the last 45 minutes, where the movie tends to feel off balance and loses that innocent, creative, imaginary awe. This is also around the time I realized I was smiling for about an hour. The last 45 minutes is where I was taken out of the colorful, hypnotic piece of entertainment and smiles and taken to a film where it starts to lack creativity in its story. The second half of Wonka decides to start to rush itself when it really needed to slow down. Without giving anything away, there is a scene where we have a creative vision of an early chocolate shop that will remind viewers of our chocolate factory, only extremely basic. And it looks absolutely stunning and there is an awe to it. But the film rushes through this. The last half does keep the innocence, but it loses the heart, it loses the emotion, and the imagination of what made the first half so special. Paul King's Wonka takes a lot of risks with the tonal change from the original to only leave the audience in a cliche, unoriginal final act that lacks any imagination in a time in the film we needed more imagination. Now, there are two main things I asked myself before entering the theater to watch Wonka. One, being a musical, is the music memorable and supports the story? And number two, I'm sure will be the bigger topic of, is Timothée Chalamet a suitable Willy Wonka? And this is where my opinion is mixed on both. The music didn't have me feeling like I really needed to download the soundtrack, but mixed in with the visuals, the music was visually fun to listen and watch at the same time. It did add to the story where I was actually hoping for more music because the choreographed musical numbers were fantastic and engaging to watch. Now, when it comes to Timothée Chalamet, he is a very talented actor, and this is a true test to his range. As an actor to do a film like this out of his norm, I do applaud him for taking on the challenge. Chalamet has done films like 2019's Little Women, The French Dispatch, Dune, Don't Look Up, and one of my favorite performances of his, Bones and All. Chalamet has done films like 2019's Little Women, The French Dispatch, Dune, Don't Look Up, and one of my favorite performances from his is Bones and All. There are moments where Chalamet nails it, and the other moments I could tell he was out of his element. There was never a consistent performance, and again, this falls into the first half being better than the second half. The first half of the film, he's actually pretty outstanding and emotional, and we are bought into this character, but then we lose him in the second half, where there's nothing magical about what he says or what he does in the dialogue. I could easily tell in scenes where he was feeling comfortable and where he struggled. What I was surprised with is how comfortable Chalamet seemed during the musical numbers. This took me a little bit by surprise that he actually does nail the musical numbers pretty well. But then as the movie goes on, I could really feel him overcomplicate this character, when in reality, Wonka isn't a complex character until we reach the original. We take this prequel with the Wonka character, who is demonstrating being outgoing, he's positive, he's a character in his young prime. That shouldn't be overcomplicated or even attempted to be like the original. Our Wonka character should be the foundation or the baseline of how Wonka will grow from this point on, to become the man we saw in the 1971 film. And this is where I have my second biggest problem with the film. By the end of the movie, I felt there are more stories to be told, because between this movie and the 1971 film, Wonka doesn't feel complete. I needed more of a, well, what happened next explanation. The film doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but rather a feeling of stories to come. And I hate it when a film does this. It shows an underconfidence from the studio of how this movie's gonna play out. They play it neutral. And in case it doesn't do well, there is no sequels. You get a lazy, satisfactory ending. And in case it does do well, we have to wait for the next one to tell the story. So they make an ending that's just so vague of its intent of what's to come. It plays it too safe. It plays it studio safe. I could sense executives eyeing a trilogy, but at the same time playing it too safe on the ending to not completely piss off Willy Wonka fans if it flops with no sequel. And to be perfectly honest, I do want to see a couple more movies out of this. This will upset me if there's no more Wonka movies, because I think Hugh Grant was cheated with his screen time in Wonka. Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa deserved more screen time, and the Oompa Loompas have a story to be told, damn it. Wonka was so close to being something oh so special and succeeds as a standalone fantastic family film if you can leave the original at the theater door. Is Wonka better than the original? No. Is it unbalanced? Absolutely. But Paul King does what he does best, which is invite you into a charming world that will give you a toothache from its sweetness and creating an environment that takes the viewer into pure imagination. I'm giving Wonka 3 stars. And that's a cut on this week's musical edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support.
Justin, can I please just have one song?
Absolutely not, Dan.
Hey. What does this button do?
All right.
Now it's my time to shine. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. He's a man other men adore. He's a man with dashing looks and more. He's a man who you can rely upon. He's the one and only Justin Henson. Many pods vie for his attention, but I know I win without contention. In fact, there's indeed no hesitation that I'm best friends with Justin Henson. So Josh and Alex, you can sit down. There's only one name, go round town. That's best friend with the one and only Justin. That's be who he can truly trust in. So let's hear the voice that sends spirits higher when he speaks of a movie pod's retire. The name of his show you don't have to inquire. It's the one and only Movie Wire.
Daniel does it again!
Dan, you know what? That song was about me. I loved it!
Justin, you know what I've learned during all this?
No, what did you learn, Dan?
Is that I love a
musical, and nothing's as amazing as a musical. La 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 musical. A big hit musical.
Is that Dan running off stage? And that's a cut on this week's musical edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. I also want to give a big thanks to Jay Stevens, Ben Swithin, and of course, my good friend Dan over the Casting Views podcast for putting together some fantastic music and script reads at the last minute. Now, if you want to support this show, don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you can also follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and support your local movie theaters.
Justin is going to be so happy that I made his show better.
Movie Wire Podcast, talking about movies with Justin Henson. He likes to see movies, he likes reviewing them. Honest reviews, streaming too, he watches everything.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.